DJ Moore or Allen. And Marvin Harrison, yes, I agree that he's going to get a lot. I mean, there's nobody else to throw the ball to. He's going to get a lot of targets coming his way, and he will get his numbers because he's just the type of receiver that can catch almost anything and run any type of route. Um, he's gonna succeed there, but it's gonna be tough because he may get doubled and tripled as well. So we'll see. And in regards to Malik Neighbors, uh, he's gonna do well as well. I mean, there's some other players there, like you said, Slayton is there. I think there's gonna be a lot of the type of receiver that Malik Neighbors is. He's the type of player that will get. I mean, he can run a wide receiver screen because he's so explosive and powerful. You can just dump a hitch off to him and he'll get you 60 yards, or he'll take the top off the defense as well. But I think that the more successful to me right now will likely or probably be Ronald Doomsday because of the talent that's there around him.
Well, I forgot to also mention that he has a rookie quarterback throwing to him, too, that we don't know how good he is yet, and we'll find that out. Let's welcome in Jamie Pags, the Philly sports guy. Got to be happy with Philly sports, and I have just put him in between two Giant fans. Of course, a huge Eagle fan there with the Philly sports guy. Pags, this is Anthony Fernandez. He's my bodyguard when we go out, and, you know, we're going to Philadelphia bars with him.
Yeah, well,
so
you won't catch me dead at the lake.
That's good.
Well,
see what I
Pags,
told you? See what I tell you? They're afraid to come down to the lake.
I would never come to the lake.
Yeah,
Never.
that's
Well,
what it is. They're scared to come down. I get
Never.
it.
You're right,
Never
Pat.
catch me
I
dead
agree.
there.
well, you're fired. Well, Anthony, you're fired as my bouncer, just to let you know.
Thank you.
Anthony is the Giants' Big Dom. Anthony is Big Dom for the Giants.
The tiny.
Well,
He's
the
a big
big,
The
the
Tinies.
well,
It doesn't matter. Big Dom isn't afraid to go
anyway,
anywhere.
Pag.
Four
Yes,
is greater than one,
no.
Pags. 4 is greater than 1. Remember that. That's gonna be my theme for you, Pags. 4 is
Hey,
greater
listen,
than 1.
it don't matter.
You've been
It doesn't
itching
matter.
to get on this
I got the last
show.
one.
Itching.
I got the last one.
Yeah, it's bad. Yeah.
First-
4 is greater than 1,
so,
Pags.
Matt,
All right.
So Matt, so before you start, when we first told James and I told Anthony about the show, and Anthony was like, "Oh, I hope I'm on there with that Philly guy because I know he's yelling and screaming a lot. I can't wait to get on the show with him." And here they go. This is awesome. I just want to say,
We're
what's
gonna
up,
make this fun,
Pat?
Pags. We're gonna make it fun.
I'm glad you're excited about it. Let's talk about a former Giant that now is an Eagle, Saquon Barkley. Saquon, I was reading an article on this, Pags. Saquon isn't just that big play guy. He's a strong guy. And Eagles lost some games last year, and with 4 minutes left, they really didn't have that back that could run out the clock for them. You know, the Eagles have those quick, Swift and their the other receiver / back. I forget his name right now. Very good running backs, but they didn't have the power Saquon has, and that's another reason that the Eagles are excited about having Saquon over there this year with him.
Yeah, the north-south running is going to change dramatically in comparison to doing on the outside. It's just that I felt you're right. They didn't really have the ability to end games like running the clock out because they were always trying to go around the ends. You know what I mean? And I think that that's not how you do that. You have to. Yep. One of the things that the Andy Reid would do at the end of games, and it was almost like clockwork, and it was a fake end around Deuce Staley up the middle. And that's how he ended games. It was fake end around Deuce Staley up the middle. You knew it was coming, you still couldn't stop it. And I think that there's going to be some of that happens this year where it's not necessarily going to be like an end around, fake end around and Saquon up the middle. I just think it's going to be Saquon between the tackles. We have one of the best offensive lines in the league, and we're going to be able to utilize it the right way this year. And I don't think we've had the ability to do that in the last few previous years.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and of course, it keeps the defense off the field too. I mean, it's that that drop in the water effect where it ripples down and affects all parts of the games, including play action, passing, and all that good stuff. So Saquon, good move by the Eagles, bad move by the Giants, and hopefully, I don't want the Eagles to beat the Giants, but I do wish Saquon a lot of luck over there. Good morning to
Well, yeah, but the
Capitan
Eagles
Ralph
always
Uccio.
beat the Giants all the time. I know that you guys won that last one. You're all excited about the fact that you won that last one.
Yes. So
That's
anyway,
okay. That's all right. You could say 4 all you want.
Four.
That's
Four,
fine.
Pags,
Guess what? We got the
four.
last one, and until you can
History
actually beat
shows.
us, until you can actually beat
shows,
us,
Pags. History shows.
Pags,
yeah, like I
Tell
got
him-
it.
tell
It's
him
like
he
whatever.
Pags, tell him he needs to get his rag
I love it.
and the liquid that cleans tarnish off those old dusty trophies. I mean, it's been a long time since you won. Come on, man.
And this is coming from a guy who says, you'll never find me in the league. I'm too
Saints
much
got
of a
one
player
ring.
to go
I
down to
wouldn't-
Philly
I wouldn't
and
be
watch my
dead
favorite
in the
team
league.
play.
Dead, Pags, dead.
All right.
Get out of here.
All right.
Get out of
Ever.
here.
So what I'm going
The
to do
show
is
is you have lost the show, Mac. at this
Four.
point.
I'll give Anthony Pags' number. They can talk about all this nonsense.
I would love it. I'll probably prank
James-
call him at 2 or 3 in the
James-
morning.
So James, it's pretty funny from a Saints fan to be talking about any kind of Super Bowls when you won
Yeah, 'cause
one,
he's
and
a
that was.
clown. J-Trade is a
Yeah.
clown.
So anyway,
No, hold on.
Pags,
Hold on.
let's talk
You don't-
about the.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about the Phillies. Phillies, I think, still have the best record in baseball. I want to talk about one thing that happened that was really interesting to me, and it always sees the umpires and the refs getting in the way of the game, right? Bryce Harper's up, first inning. He gets a strike called. It was definitely almost in the dirt. It was a ball. He throws his helmet down, wants to talk to the ump. The ump tosses him out of the game. Could have cost you the game. Right, you lost Bryce Harper right away. I don't get the umps anymore. I know they got a strong union. I know it's hard to deal with these guys. They have to hold these guys accountable some way, somehow. And I just don't know what the answer is right now.
Well, it's getting closer and closer. They are getting to the point where they don't need these umpires anymore. They don't need them. They got cameras everywhere on the field. You can go ahead and actually do all these calls right now. Once you do the mechanical box on the balls and strikes, there's getting to a point where you don't need these umpires anymore because they are screwing the game up. They're starting to screw the game up. I'm tired of these umpires thinking that everybody's there to see them. And for somebody to go like that, first off, you don't it wasn't even contentious. You could tell that the moment that he throws him out and he's like, what the frig are you doing? Like, what are you doing? There's no point for him, no reason for him to get thrown out. Obviously the guy made a bad call. You know, you take your beating a little bit and you go. You know what I mean? You let it happen. He's one of the best players in the game, and you just kicked him out in the first inning. Are you kidding me? Like, it's getting ridiculous. It is absolutely getting ridiculous. Angel Hernandez does it purposely now. I feel like he does it purposely. And it's only going to be a matter of time. As Angel Hernandez cost them, I mean, they're going to go to that box now because of Angel Hernandez specifically. Like, he's missing calls at like 30 and 40% of the time. Like, he just doesn't know how to call a ball and strike anymore. And half of these umpires are just ridiculous on how they are so soft. You know, it's like, oh, you can't tell me anything. Get the hell out of here. The MLB is going to have to start holding these guys responsible. I mean, it's not just against the Phillies. I mean, that call for the White Sox, that infield fly call. Oh my God, that is at the end of game. The White Sox are coming back. I mean, not that the White Sox are any good or anything like that, and who knows what would have happened if they pitched to the next guy. But I mean, what the hell? I mean, that's how you're going to end a game on a stupid bad call like that. That's it. It's just getting ridiculous, more and more ridiculous. And the fact that the union is not doing anything about it, is just going to say, okay, you know what? We don't need you anymore. We got cameras on the field and we got a mechanical ball and strike. And guess what? Now you guys are all out of a job. Now what?
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I know the rule of throwing your headgear can get you ejected, and that's what he was going off of.
Well,
But
no,
when I watched,
it gives you an automatic fine. It gives you a fine. He automatically got fined for that. When you throw your helmet, you get a fine.
Part of the reason. Well, from what I understood, throwing any kind of equipment, the rule they said on TV, anyways, is that you can get kicked out for that. You don't have to, but you can. Bryce Harper was not getting in his face. I agree with you. He was not yelling at him in any way. He just said he wanted to have a discussion, and the umpire just didn't want to do that. Bags, I agree. Something's going to happen. Maybe this puts pressure on Manfred to bring up the electric umpires next year, which I think is a shame. Really, I think I like the human aspect of sports. I don't like it when it becomes computerized. And there's going to be problems with that too. What happens if it's not working on one pitch? I can see the problems coming up with the computer systems too.
That's half the problem. Manfred's half the problem too. He is such a weak commissioner. You know, that anything just gets along right past him. I'm not a fan of him. I can't wait till he's done and they bring in somebody new, because obviously this guy is just a piece of work.
I agree. Let's talk a little hockey with you. You know more about hockey than at least I know me, Jack, James, and Sonia. I'm not sure about Anthony here. But listen, the Rangers tied this series. The Dallas comes back, ties the series. Pags. These two. Is this? I know that the Panthers can't play the Rangers in the finals. Is Dallas and Edmonton good enough to beat either of the East teams?
It's going to be dependent on how the goalies are against each other, obviously, in that. The Rangers got lucky. The Rangers did get lucky. I've been saying to everybody who's a Rangers fan, I said the Rangers got to score 3 goals in these games to win these games. To win a game 2-1 is not typical against the Panthers. The Panthers will typically score a couple of goals. So it's going to be really tough. The Rangers got to start putting the puck in the net. Now, obviously, Shesterkin was able to match Bobrovsky, and then they were able to pull it off in overtime. But it's going to be tough to be able to beat Bobrovsky, and he's the reason why Florida is going to, I think, get to the Cup. I just think that until New York can prove that they can score goals on him, they're not going to be able to advance.
Could Dallas or Edmonton beat either of those teams, Pags?
I don't think Edmonton has the goaltending that's going to be able to do it. And I think because of that, I mean, once they figure out, like in game 1, Connor McDavid was able to get where he needed to be and score that overtime goal in the second overtime. Dallas neutralized them last game. And if they continue to neutralize him, I mean, Connor McDavid is most of their offense in Edmonton. But their goaltender is just so. So I think that Dallas is still going to win the series. But I think either way, it's hard to beat a hot goaltender. And right now, Bobrovsky is hot.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Max, for that hockey update. Let's jump back to football. Let's talk a little Carolina Panthers. I know you're all looking forward to this. So, Sonia, I want to talk to you about a safety with the Carolina Panthers, Jalen Horn, trying to change up his off-season training. Listen, pretty good safety, but he's only been in 22 of 51 games. Last year, I think he had 9 interceptions. There are good players on bad teams. It just takes a coach to kind of get the team together. And he's going weightlifting. And I'm surprised that, maybe because he's a cornerback, I don't know, maybe they don't weightlift as much. But I would think that would be part of any football player's training, especially going up against the bigger wide receivers. But tell us what you can about Jalen Horn, Sonia. Sonia, I think you're muted. You're muted.
Okay, I was.
There you
Sorry,
go.
guys.
I mean, if that
Are
was
you
all you
speaking
needed.
See, that's exactly, and that was it was very interesting about Carolina. That's about the best I've heard about anybody speak about Carolina in
Worry about your crash and burning Eagles that took a dive.
Hold on.
in week
What are we
5
talking about?
on.
What are we talking
But
about?
you guys
Did you
got
guys
those
win
little
more than
class-
2 games?
You
Did you
coming
guys
for
even give
everybody
away?
today? He need to be muted. He need to be muted. I ain't even came for the tag.
Don't worry, we're coming for Pags next year. Don't worry,
Thank
son.
you.
I got your
Thank you,
back.
Firm. So, are you talking about JC Horn, Mac? JC, right?
The defensive back, the safety for JC Horn. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, JC Horn. I was confused. I was like, I don't know who Jalen is, so I was looking. No worries. Yeah, JC Horn has kind of been somebody we've kind of banked on up and down. His name has already been out there all the time about, something positive for the team. Like you're saying, the workout should always remain the same, but let's be honest, Carolina is really trying to ramp up to try to get themselves together. So of course, everybody's going to step out there and say, we're doing XYZ better this year, especially when you look at the fact that they went and got Xavier Legette. There's going to be a little bit of healthy competition going on through the OTAs because people are playing for these starting positions. And so, JC Horn is definitely, we saw unfortunately what happened with Brian Burns. So now that they saw that he was, disposable, JC Horn wants to step his game up because he doesn't want to be next on the chopping block. So that's my take on that.
All right. So a little Carolina Panther news. Let's turn to James with the Saints news. Of course, they're restructuring, rebuilding the Superdome. That's probably the most interesting thing about the Saints this year. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Their schedule. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about their schedule, James. Domes teams and teams that play in nice climates, when it comes to the winter, this is when they have the problems. The Dolphins are one of the teams that come to mind, especially being from a good area. But, the Saints and their schedule, they have just before the bye, they got Atlanta and Cleveland. Couple tough games. So they rest up. And then when they got the Rams coming off that bye, and the two games that may decide whether the Saints get in the playoffs or not will be in December as they go to play the Giants in Giants Stadium, and then they go and they play the Green Bay Packers in Lambeau Field.
I think we have opportunities to win those games. Specifically the New York game. I know this person with the bad cough down there. I don't know. He need to take some Clorets or something and get it together down there. Laughing about everything about the Saints, but he'll tell you that if he can recall last season, I believe we dismantled the Giants. I don't have a problem with the Giants per se. The Packers, we had issues with them. I think ultimately the shifting of our offense altogether and I see, I'm looking at OTAs, what we're doing with our offensive line. The biggest issue the Saints had was mainly, it wasn't Derek Carr, it was keeping Derek Carr upright. And the scheme by the offensive coordinator that we had. So I think those two games aren't really the games I'm concerned with. The first 4 games are the ones that I'm more concerned with. Start jumping out of the game, playing against the Eagles, Kansas City. No, I'm not.
Week 1. You forgot week 1.
That's a guaranteed win. That's why.
You said first 4 games. Be concerned. Be concerned.
Yeah, be concerned.
First 4. Sir, be concerned with your own team down there, please. You're wearing that NY. The Tinies, I'm not concerned with them. Let's focus on the Saints right now. So again, the first 4 teams past the Carolina Panthers, I'm a bit concerned with those. So we'll see how that goes. But those last 2 games you're talking about, I think we'll be up and running by then, and I see those 2 as wins, viable wins.
Well, Jack agrees with you. He thinks Derek Carr is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. What do you mean keep him upright? That's the job of every offensive line. Everybody's getting sacked. You gotta be able to throw the ball while being under pressure. That separates the quarterbacks from the bad quarterbacks.
Oh my goodness. Sis, I'm gonna tell you right now. Talking from the Panthers organization, you might want to zip that lip.
Jay Trent is one of the most delusional guys I know. To be honest with you, he's one of the most delusional guys.
A lot of Eagle fans are in saying hi. Little brother JJ,
hi guys.
Eagles Philly. Sean Spencer popped in. How you doing, Sean? Haven't heard from you for quite a long time. We really don't cover the Commanders. I've asked you to come on the program, and you've turned me down a bunch of times. So I would love to talk about the Commanders with you, and we can laugh about your team too. And happy Memorial Day to you too, Sean. I want to talk to Jack.
I want to ask just a quick question. Who's going to get the better of the exchange? Bryce Huff going from the Jets to the Eagles, or Hassan Riddick going from the Eagles to the Jets? Who's going to wind up getting the better of that?
I don't know. I would say Hassan Reddick is a great player. Better in a 4-3 system. Likes to go after the quarterback rather than go into coverage. I think they really utilized him the wrong way last year. And I think that he does a little bit of clout chasing. You know, he likes to get the sacks. And I think he likes those numbers. And that's really what he wants to do. And that kind of went against what the Eagles were trying to do, which is why they traded him away for like nothing. It seemed like that they didn't get anything for him. I think they got a pick in like 2028 or 2029 even maybe. But it was obviously there was some talk that he was making some noise. It's starting to become a cancer within the locker room. So, and you know, it's like that's so they cut him out. They're like, all right, we're gonna send you away. Go to the Jets. And we had just signed that guy from the Jets. I don't know that he is the same type of player or even as good a player as Reddick is. So I think if you compare the two, it may be the fact that the Jets got the better player, but not necessarily the better teammate.
All right. Well, there you go. Good morning to Matt Henry. Glad to have you on with us. Keep the comments coming. We always put them up, and sometimes we even talk about them if it's something to do with the topic we're talking about. Anthony, let me get you a Giants perspective on Darius Slayton. All right. He's in his second year of his 2-year contract. He's making I think he's making like $12 million a year. Let me get the right
say that name again. Say that name again.
Darius Slayton.
Slayton.
Number 86. Yes. He's holding out because he's in the second year of his 2-year, $18 million a year contract. Listen, I mean, I get it. Players want to get their money when they can get it. Slayton's still kind of young. But when you sign a contract, Jack's tired of it. I think everybody's tired of this. You sign a contract. You want to redo your contract during your contract. I mean, you agree to these terms. And if you're not going to play, Jack has said it. I think everybody has said this. Sit on the bench. We'll charge you, we'll charge you an amount of money every game you miss, and there you go. Giants have the advantage here. What do they do with Slayton?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we picked up Allen Robinson, because we're not going to pay Slayton. He hasn't been as productive. He doesn't warrant that type of money. You know, we've had a horrible wide receiver room for the last couple of years, just as bad as our offensive line has been, right? So, you know, you move Saquon because you don't want to pay him, because we want to allocate a lot of those funds for other positions, right? I know people look at it from a standpoint of Saquon was this and great. I like the move, you know, send him to Philly, let them chunk out the money for him, and let's fill out the gaps that we need to fill out. You know, let's get, you know, the Brian Burns, add to that pass rush. Let's build that offensive line up in the free agency. Let's conserve some money on that aspect. Darius Slayton doesn't want that type of money. You know, you pick up a guy like Allen Robinson. You sit down Darius. If he sits down, we charge him, and then hopefully we could trade him after that. You know, I'm not too worried about that. He's, you know, Jalen Hyatt and Neighbors and another guy we haven't talked about too much, Wan'Dale Robinson. I think those guys are going to have a breakout year this year. Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be a nightmare this year. You know, I think people are not kind of paying attention to him. He's a guy you can move around, slide, you can run him out of the backfield. He's going to be a weapon for us this year. So I'm not too worried about Darius Slayton and wanting more cash. I'll let you speak, Mac. I know you had something to say.
Well, you know, to me, first of all, Darius Slayton's been our best receiver for the past since he's been there. And, you know, it's not his
look where it's gotten us.
fault that he has Daniel Jones throwing to him or back.
That's because you guys are really good about picking other personnel.
Yes. But the point is you say, well, offensive line doesn't cost a lot of money. Anthony, I listen, I think that the Giants right now, the only concern I have is I think everybody does. If you sign a contract, abide by the contract. That's all. That's all we're asking.
Yes.
Go out, have a good year.
And I agree with that. But again, you know, like I said, I know we all talk about Daniel Jones, this and that. Let's not forget. And I'll say this to Pags too. I'm not sure if he keeps up with my team. I'm sure he stalks us from time to time. Daniel Jones has taken us to a playoff and has won a playoff game for us. So what I want to say
hold on. But he lost to Philly, right? He lost to Philly, though, right?
There has to be dynamics around him to complement him. Okay, offensive line wasn't strong for many years, you know. So Daniel Jones has not had an opportunity to be protected. I'm not making excuses for Daniel Jones, but he has been successful.
Sure sounds like excuses.
Able to surround him around the talent that he needs. And then we go into the last game of the season and we beat the crap out of the birds, the pigeons, you know, with a backup quarterback. But I'm not making excuses. I'm not making excuses for Daniel Jones.
Anthony, I have been a Giant fan since 1967. All right. I love the Giants. I don't buy this nonsense anymore. I just don't buy it. If you can't be a quarterback with an offensive line that isn't that good and you can't make plays, you don't belong there. And the reason why the Giants went to the playoffs is maybe more Saquon Barkley than Daniel Jones. Maybe. I mean, you know, the guy was our only weapon, really. I just think Darius Slayton is a good wide receiver. He's not great, but
he's not great. He's a solid number 2.
Him, I think he's the best of a bad bunch. He's the best of a bad bunch.
And Hyatt to me, he's fast. It would help if he caught the ball and could run a route correctly instead of just running straight down the field. That would help him out a lot too. And I'm just being honest. All right. I'm just being honest. So anyway, Jack, I got some jet thing I want to talk to you a little bit about here. Eagles, Phillies, Sonia, can't believe y'all laughed at the pot.
That comment was from the Panther Reds page. I had to copy and paste it. So the Panther Reds
has actually paste comments from the Panthers to get on the show. It's great. I love the Carolina.
I love it, Sonya.
Anyway,
I love it.
I really do. Okay, so yes. He fell down. People fall down. You know.
Yeah, people fall
down.
At
19-yard line. That's just I jumped up.
People fall down.
Oh my!
I think Kenny Pickett may steal that position from Jalen Hurts.
We scored that touchdown anyway, so whatever.
Hey, listen, let's talk about one good thing that you had going on in your season last year was a pizza guy. I don't want to hear anything about it. All right, everybody doing this, thinking that you had something going on out there. Get out of here.
Right up.
And then the Saints downed them. And then the Saints downed them.
J-Train, stay out of it. This is NFC.
Let's talk a little. Let's talk a little Jets with Jack here. There was an article I read, and I think it was a New York Post. I'm not exactly sure, but it was about this former safety that played when Brett Favre played. Let me get you his name really quick here.
Roy Butler.
Anyway, I'll get to it. But he was complaining about Brett Favre. He complaining about Brett Favre when his time with the Jets. Now, of course, when he went with the Jets, he was 8-3 until he got hurt. So they were playing well. And I remember when they signed Brett Favre, there was some conditions Brett Favre wanted even more than money. One was that he was able to skip OTAs and certain practices so he could go fishing and hunting. And the Jets agreed to those terms. Something about living conditions. Well, a safety for the Jets here, safety Kerry Rhodes, said Brett Favre was a disruptor at the time, that it was, he wasn't a team guy, that he could wear jeans to away games, and he didn't have to trade. He didn't have to change in the players' locker room. Jack, to me, this is all what teams do for their stars, right? LT had certain things that the Giants did for them. All quarterbacks in one way or another get special treatment, especially if they're stars. I mean, this is something that all teams do at one point or another. And to me, this is a guy crying that maybe, that the Jets fell apart because of Brett Favre is not true.
Well, that season they did get off to an 8-3 start, lost 4 out of their last 5. Favre was playing, just the whole team was playing well, and they wound up going 9-7, and Eric Mangini wound up getting fired after 3 seasons as the Jet head coach. I mean, it depends on whether a star quarterback wants preferential treatment. The Denver Broncos, for example, they signed Russell Wilson based on them agreeing to give him preferential treatment because they thought they were getting a star quarterback, and he didn't pan out there. So there was reportedly some resentment in the beginning. Not all players bought into the resentment thing, and they said it was overblown to a degree. Even with the Jets now, I mean, Aaron Rodgers has tremendous clout within the organization. Just look at their last draft. It was all geared around helping Aaron Rodgers out. I mean, an offensive lineman with the first pick, a wide receiver with the second pick, then a couple of running backs. It's what happens. Certain quarterbacks don't want that treatment. They want to be one of the guys. Some of them, there's like an air about them where they're like above the other guys. They're still good teammates, but they want to be treated as kind of a so-called star. Okay, it works that way in life, and it depends how the quarterback handles it with his teammates. That was just Kerry Rhodes saying it about Brett Favre. I haven't heard a lot of bad blowback about Brett Favre during his time with the Jets. I mean, I haven't heard he was a bad teammate. Someone's going to come out all these years later and say, oh, he wasn't really that good of a teammate. Maybe Kerry Rhodes didn't have much of a relationship with him. So, there's a little discontent, and I wouldn't read too much into it. If a number of other Jet players come out from the past and they start complaining what a lousy teammate Brett Favre was, then it would have a little more credibility.
Why are they crying in the first place? Why are they crying? What is the purpose of him saying this right now? Like, I don't understand.
Some publicity bags. That's all it is. The more interesting point to me is Mangini did not want Brett Favre. He did not want to make that deal to bring Brett Favre. And when they brought Brett Favre in, he ends up getting fired because they brought in Brett Favre and they have a losing season. And you see that happen a lot with coaches. It happened in Carolina. It happened with Mangini too. I mean, I remember that. So, again, Brett Favre goes on. He plays with the Vikings. He takes them to the championship, almost to the Super Bowl the following year. He was one heck of a quarterback. I think he was a great guy too.
Let me say something, Mac. Unless you have an elite quarterback already, and you're a coach and you don't want Brett Favre in his prime, I would fire that coach because he has no clue what he's doing. I mean, give me a break. You have a chance to get a good version of Brett Favre and you're turning it down?
I don't know who the quarterback was. Wasn't it that I forget his name? I forget who the quarterback was for the Jets at the time, but I think he got the second string.
Could have been Lucas. They were playing then or whatever. It was past. Yeah. It's
Listen, I think you should take.
It was a no-brainer at the time.
coach's. I think you should take the coach's opinion into consideration when you bring any
You
player.
take
That's
it
just
into consideration, you listen to them, and then you make your decision. You think these coaches always know what they're doing? They can't even make in-game decisions. They too slow to call timeouts. How often do we see an extra 15 seconds late in the game go off the clock and then they call a timeout? They make so many bad judgment calls themselves.
Now, Jack, I love Jack's point of view when it comes to coaches because he never played organized football or coach organized football at all. So, I mean, I just take it for what it's worth. It's kind of easy to sit on the sidelines and say this coach should have called a timeout then or did this then
Coordinators
or
do that all the time. You sit in. Yeah, I've watched the game enough where I understand it. I couldn't coach it per se. I couldn't set up an offensive line, a defensive backfield the correct way. I couldn't coach from that angle. But I know about game management. I know about plays that should be called. I could see when a defensive unit is weak in certain areas, how they should be attacked.
But yeah, most people could, Jack. But all I'm saying is, I think a guy that's been coaching for 20 years probably knows a little bit more about the game than me and you. That's all I'm saying. Maybe not, but that's all I'm saying.
He's not coaching anymore.
Good morning, Sebastian. Glad to have you. Well, fair point. I mean, yeah, he's not. Anyway, so let's jump into the MLB for the last part of the show here. And of course, we already talked. The Phillies are on fire. So are the Yankees. And the Yankees, Aaron Judge is up to, I think, 17 home runs now. The pitching is surprisingly good for the Yankees. I think they got the second best record in MLB pretty soon. They should be playing the Phillies back, right?
End of July, I think.
Is it in New York or Philly?
It's in Philly this year. Yes, in fact, it's the end of July, the 29th, 30th, and 31st.
All right, we'll see how the teams are doing then, and maybe this will be a really good matchup. I mean, I could see the Phillies. The only thing weird about the Phillies this year is that normally they wait to the second half to make their move. Hopefully, it doesn't work in reverse this year, Pat.
I don't think I'm worrying about that. The pitching has been so ridiculously good. When you have your pitchers, even last night, Nola did not have his best stuff, was still able to go 6 innings and only give up 3 runs, through like 104 pitches or 105 pitches. Didn't have his best stuff, but was able to just grunge it out, and they wound up with the W coming back in the 9th inning to win the game. But Ranger Suarez has been nothing short of the Cy Young winner. Like, he's gone to 10 starts, 9-0. He's been I think he's gone 7 innings in at least 7 of those starts, and he's gotten into the 8th and the 9th, even 3 other starts. So they just have everything going right now. That the biggest conversation that the Phillies have is what happens when Turner comes back, who gets sent down. When you start talking about the problems that you have with your 26th player, which one do you want to send down? That's a great problem to have. And I can't see that slowing down. Now, what scares me is that when you look at teams that have gone 100+ wins throughout a season, how well do they typically fare in the playoffs? Like, when you have 116 wins, Seattle gets knocked out by the Yankees. When you had 118 wins, I think is the most of all time, by the Cubs, they did not win the World Series. Those are the things that make me. You can't win a World Series in May. You got to do it in October. So it does not matter what happens now. Like I said, every team's going to win 60. Every team's going to lose 60. It's what you do with those other 42. When you have those 42 covered and you're going to be able to go, like if you're 102-60, that's a great year. So
yeah, the only thing the regular season does right now is basically affect the seedings of who's playing who where, and that's basically what the playoffs of the regular season does. The rest, you have to win in the playoffs, that's for sure, which some good teams have not done. Justin Verlander passes Greg Maddux for 10th on the all-time strikeout list. Number one, of course, is Nolan Ryan. Real quick, Jack, because you're better at history than me. Nolan Ryan, is he in the Hall of Fame?
Oh, of course, easily. I mean, what,
Absolutely.
7 no-hitters? Yeah. You know, it's easy
Well,
to
wait
forget
a minute.
Nolan. Yeah.
It's a setup question. So he's in the Hall of Fame. Does his record as a starting pitcher deserve that?
No, well, Nolan Ryan was not one of the greatest pitchers of all time. I mean, his 7 no-hitters withstanding. I mean, they didn't have the radar gun out during his time, but he threw harder than anyone else in the league. But he was a little bit erratic, okay? But he was a great pitcher. I mean, any team he'd be their ace today for the most part. And you know, a funny trivia thing about Nolan Ryan, for all his years in the league, I mean, I think he pitched, something like 21 years. He was only on one World Series winning team, and that was with the 1969 Miracle Mets, where he was really a middle reliever for the most part. That's hard to believe. And at that time, they asked Gil Hodges about Nolan Ryan and all his great potential. And Gil Hodges wasn't overly sold on Nolan Ryan. He said, some guys have potential their whole life, meaning how long can we wait on Nolan Ryan? And eventually the Jets traded him to the Los Angeles Angels for Pags, you're going to like this, Jim Fregosi. And it turned out to be a terrible deal for the Mets. Fregosi was a wonderful third baseman in his prime. When he came to the Mets, all of a sudden, he hit a wall. He wasn't good anymore. And then Ryan went on to tremendous heights.
Yeah, I wonder if he smoked back then,
So
too.
did Cleveland. Go ahead.
Yeah, Ferguson was
Cleveland
a
Indians.
well-known smoker, so that's why I'm
Prize team in
saying.
the Central.
Fregosi managed, by the way, the Philadelphia Phillies. For
So,
those of you
as
who
I
don't know,
was
they
saying,
took
the
them to the
Cleveland-
World Series where they lost to the Blue Jays. They
Correct.
needed a closer. What's the feeling towards Mitch Williams, Pags, in Philadelphia?
Now he's loved. Now he's loved. It took a minute.
Sonia, as I was saying, the Cleveland Indians are the surprise team of the American League this year. Not so much because of that they're a good team. It's the way they're doing it. They're doing it with power instead of pitching. Cleveland has a history of developing pitching, and right now they have tied for fifth of the best offense in the major leagues. Cleveland, who'd have thunk it? Do you think they have a shot at the World Series? I'll let Pags and Jack back.
Well, I don't really know that they have a shot because you got to think about the Orioles are really looking good all season, and they are certainly going to be competitive. I mean, Cleveland looks solid. I mean, we are kind of shocked about that. But for the AL, I really think that Baltimore is the team that's going to probably pull it out at the end. We got a lot of up and down teams right now. Of course, we talked about Philly already. They're probably going to go on to the World Series. Let's be clear. Yankees are still looking good. They're about 14-3 right now. And the Braves are trying to overcome the void of Spencer Strider. So even though they're still hanging in there, including with the Dodgers, I think that Cleveland, on the original question that was posed, I think they're going to be pretty solid, but I think that Baltimore is going to be the solid contender for that division.
Well, in a different division, the Orioles and Cleveland. In Cleveland's division is the Kansas City Royals, who've slipped under the radar. They're like
the whole AL. So let me.
Yeah, the AL division. Central there has been really, really good. And the team I picked to win that division, the Tigers, a couple of games under 500. They're like 10 games out. But I think the Tigers are going to get back in contention at some point.
How about the surprises of the Mariners? Yeah, I was the surprise on the Mariners. Actually, their pitching staff has been much better than expected. And them leading the West right now with, I mean, I know Houston came out poorly in the beginning of the season, and the Rangers, I mean, just got swept out of Philadelphia. But I mean, they're battling the injury bug. Seattle has come out and they've actually had, I think, listed as one of the better pitching staffs, going again 6 and 7 innings most of the time. They're keeping their bullpen fresh, and that's going to be a big deal further down the line. But I'm surprised to see Seattle doing as well as they are.
And let's not count out the Guardians or the Brewers. I mean, it's a long way from here to October. They still can, pull this thing out just as likely as all the other teams are right now.
How about that? And talking about the Brewers, thinking about
we're not forgetting. Wait a minute, we're not forgetting Cleveland. I brought them up first, and that's why we're talking about Cleveland. And I think the Yankees have played more than 20 games. I know they're doing a little bit better than 17-3. Sonia, I think it might be 27 or something or other. But anyway, we are bringing up Baltimore. Baltimore really isn't playing as well as we thought. It's maybe because the Yankees are playing better. I don't know. But Seattle, I don't know, Pags. It's a pretty weak division over there. I know Texas and Houston are there, and maybe they make a late run. I don't know. Seattle, their pitching staff might be well, but they're still barely about 500 in their division. It's not like they're killing it over there. I am impressed with the Central. I give you that. I am impressed with the Tigers and the Brewers and all that. And the Brewers, of course, the National League. Now I'm all messed up. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the New York Mets. Now, and Pax probably loves this segment. They have the richest owner in all baseball. They got a pretty good GM there. I hear good things about the Mets GM there, David Stearns. But the Mets just are getting worse instead of better. They don't seem happy. They don't seem to have any chemistry. Anthony, I haven't heard from you and James for a while. So I'm asking you, Anthony, I don't know if you follow the Mets or not. You seem to be a New York guy. Lindor's like 0 for 16. Their pitching is terrible, and they just keep falling farther and farther behind. I mean, what do you do if you're Cohen? Buying players ain't working. He held the strings this year on buying players. That's not working. Is it the coach? Do you got to get a coach in there that maybe makes the players a little more happy there?
Could possibly. I mean, you're sitting, 3 or 4 games above the Marlins. The Phillies own that division, unfortunately. Braves are right behind them. I'm not sure which direction. My first game, baseball game was at Shea Stadium. So I grew up sort of a Mets fan and kind of fell off. But, something has to give with the Mets, right? They, like you said, they're getting worse than opposed to getting better. Season could turn around. I'm just not sure in which direction. Do you get a new coach in there? Do you, like you said, you're buying players? Do you try to change up the roster? Possibly, but you got to get to the root of the problem. What's going on in that organization to where it's causing a decline opposed to an incline? You still have a chance. You're a few games out of getting to getting above.
Yes, I mean.
Yes.
Well, I think the Mets are going to be.
I don't know if they have a chance or not.
Possibly.
The problem is Edwin Diaz's contract. He's in the second year of a 5-year contract that's paying him $20 million a year, big money for a closer. And no one else is going to pick up that contract. Would the Mets be willing to eat a good part of it? And the way he's been pitching, I can't see a team splitting the contract and paying him $10 million. They might pay $5 million, and the Mets would be on the hook for an extra $15 million a year. No team wants to throw money away like that. So they don't know what to do with Edwin Diaz. He has been horrible this year. Absolutely horrible. Last year he was injured, so he was out for the season. This is like I'm saying, the second year of a 5-year deal. Pete Alonso, they'll be able to move him and get prospects at the deadline. And then if they want to see if they could re-sign him as a free agent, Scott Boras is his agent. So I don't know, will they even go there with that? And they have Jeff McNeil has a couple of more years left where the next couple of years after this, he's going to be paid close to $16 million a year. So they have decisions to make. And of course, Lindor's wonderful 10-year contract. I mean, that's at $31 million a year, and he has something like about 7 years left on that. They're just going to have to live with it. But Lindor's a good player. His batting average is low, but he's still good defensively. He shows power. So even though he won't be worth the money they're paying him, they can live with that contract, I guess, even though they're ultimately not going to be happy with it.
James, any team sport, you got to have chemistry. You got to have some fun of what you're doing. It's not all business. And that's, I watched the highlights of the Mets. They're misjudging the batter misjudges the ball in center field. He's a Golden Glover, but for some reason, those things happen. Double play, forgets to get the ball before he throws it over. There's a lot of errors. It looks like there's a lot of pressure on them to try to perform. I don't want to blame it all on the coach either. I know the coach is only as good as the players underneath him, but he's got to bear the responsibility. They got rid of their former coach last year, and he was a very good coach, and they replaced him, and they're worse. I don't know what the answer is, but I do know that you got to loosen up. You see a lot of teams that are winning are having fun. Even the losing teams are out there giving it their best, and they're not worried about turning a double play. I mean, what's the answer there? Is the coaching staff? Is it the head coach, the manager himself? Is it? What do you do there?
It could be a combination of both. It could be a combination of management and team chemistry. What I like to see a lot of times is a coach or a manager being a manager's or a team manager versus a player's coach or manager, because most times if I'm not there to be your friend, you can have camaraderie, have good chemistry, but at the end of the day, this is a job. This is a professional level, and everybody has to have some sort, be culpable for some sort of responsibility there. And so I think managers at being at the top, you're the one responsible. You have to make sure you're almost like a parent. You have to make sure that everybody's in line. Everybody's doing their job, including you yourself, first and foremost, looking in the mirror. But I would imagine that most of the blame should be on the management. I mean, if there's lack of chemistry, then you figure it out. You figure out how to get that chemistry right, how to get that so we can try to get it together, because ultimately the players are going to do what they do. They're not there to manage. They're not there to try to. You have leaders in the field. Maybe you don't have good leaders in the field. In a player level, but I would imagine everything has to fall on the manager and keeping.
Bags. The Lindor was on TV. He said they mentioned to him maybe you do a players meeting or whatever. Lindor says we don't need to do a players meeting. They're talking. There's talking. It doesn't do no good. He didn't seem interested in anything. And to me, that's a problem. You got to be looking for answers. We're all under the gun. Well, every team's under the gun. Wouldn't you think Lindor being? I don't know if Lindor you could say is the face of the Mets now or not. But don't you think that maybe they should get together and hash out whatever's going on there?
I don't think they like each other. I think that's the problem. The Phillies are a prime example of what happens when a team likes each other. Like, I think that, there's a belief that I have that a team that drinks together wins together. And I say that all the time on here. Mm-hmm. But and it doesn't mean that they have to go out and get drunk. I'm talking about just actually hanging with each other, enjoying each other. When you're having a good time, that relates to wins on the field. Yeah. I think the Mets last year had a war of egos, and I think now the egos that are there, that are mainstays there, are too much. They rule, and it doesn't matter. And because of that, I think you got a bunch of excuse my language, a-holes out there that are on the Mets, and they don't really care about anybody else except themselves. And that relates to the play on the field. And I think that's really what it comes down to. I think it's a culture situation. I don't think it has anything to do with the management. I think it has to do strictly with the players, and that the players just ain't really interested. I'm going to get my money whether I stink or not. And, I got an owner who's just going to spend money. And ultimately, I think it's just bad juju, I'll call it, in the locker room in general, and it just comes out as losses.
You mentioned before, Tags, about Ranger Suarez being the Cy Young winner if they voted right now. But Seth Lugo, the former Met middle reliever of a couple of years ago, he went to San Diego. Now he's with the Kansas City Royals. If the season ended today, Seth Lugo would be the Cy Young Award winner in the American League. And he was with the Mets not that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of people not with the Mets not too long ago, and the owner decided to get rid of them because trying to buy a championship wasn't working. In fact, it was going in the wrong direction. So I think that there's something to be said.
It's not as easy as you think. I don't care how much money you got. You gotta have a team that's out there ready to play.
Reminds me of the Eagles.
Well,
yes.
you think about Wayne Huizenga, who was the last one to buy a championship, but he brought in Darren Daulton, and Darren Daulton went into that locker room and made it his. He's like, all right, let's get together. We want to go win a championship. This is how it's going to get done. And it didn't matter. He didn't have to be the best player on the field. He just took over all the egos and says, listen, check them at the door. We got business to do. And they were able to win it. The Mets have not had that businessman-like attitude coming in, and they need to have that. That's going to be the first way to start to change just the demeanor of that whole locker room.
Let me give you a prime example. The Mets, when they won a World Series a while back, when they had Doc Gooden and they had Darryl Strawberry, they had a lot of fun, sometimes too much fun, right? And that's what kind of kept them out of the World Series. But they went to the World Series and they won it. Right now, that doesn't look anything like the Mets team today in any way. Real quick, Boston season is like the Mets. They're just falling like a rock. Their starting pitcher is going to have shoulder surgery. They're kind of up and down. We'll see what happens if they get any of their players back. I was going to have Jack talk a little female boxing today. Patty Donovan boxed Lewis Rinston, won in the 9th round. Jack doesn't think it really is grabbing. I'm trying to be diverse here, Jack. I'm bringing women's boxing to our program here. Patty Donovan's a good female boxer, right?
Patty Donovan is a male, Mac. We had him on our show. He's a male. He's a worker. Okay, so don't insult him. He's co-managed by a friend of mine, Keith Sullivan, and Andy Lee, trains him and co-manages him as well. Patty Donovan looked good beating Lewis Rinston. I mean, he boxed within himself, for most of the fight. Nothing spectacular, moved, did just enough, and then started putting it together in the 7th, 8th round, and then he unloaded in the 9th round and stopped Lewis Rinston, and he's going to have a fight against a fighter, Lewis Crocker. That's going to be a big fight in Ireland. It should take place later this summer. It's going to be, and the winner of that fight is going to definitely be, in all probability, I should say, it'll be a highly ranked welterweight contender. And the winner of that fight is going to be in the mix to fight for one of the versions of the welterweight title in 2025. Big fight yesterday, Jack Catterall beating Josh Taylor, a rematch of their first fight where Josh Taylor was given a highly controversial decision. And this fight has been in the works for a long time. And Catterall got off to a great start, winning 5 of the first 6 rounds of the 12th round, and then Josh Taylor made a great charge, got into the fight, landed damaging punches. It looked like Catterall could be fading, but then Catterall got it together and hurt Josh Taylor in the 11th round, close strong around 12, and got a well-deserved decision.
Thanks for that update. I forgot about that fight. A couple things before we go. First, Anthony, if you look down at the bottom of your screen, you see your window down there, right? You see that down at the bottom of your screen? See that?
I think so,
there's a mic mute button. Yeah, there's a mic mute button, and when you go to cough, all you got to do is press it, and then you don't cough on air. A little help for you from a little experienced broadcaster here. All right, that'll help you out so you don't cough.
Thank you,
on air.
thank you, Sonya. I mean, Matt. Thank you, Sonya. I mean, Matt.
No,
I got a bad cough.
I love I love calling people out on there. It's just something I like to do.
Well, Mac, I do want to say something, Mac. I think I have an idea for the next show. J-Train and Pags should get a show, and they should title it One Hit Wonders. I'll be more than happy to be a guest on it.
Yeah,
You're saying
maybe so. Right now, I think.
And listen, learn how to actually put your camera up in the right position rather than us looking up your nose before you start trying to come at me. All right, there, buddy.
Can I just ask Pags?
He's using a flip phone.
Yeah, it needs
this is the start of a great relationship. I can't wait to be on again.
Yes.
And also for the Giants.
Jack, did you want to ask a question before we go?
Yeah, Pags, is Big Dom back? Has the suspension been lifted?
Yes.
Big Dom is back.
Yes.
Good. Justice has been served.
What a mobster.
Excellent. Very, very cool, folks. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed us on the Sports Huddle channel there. We got some fireworks going as there you go. You could have done that the whole show. It would have been great.
It.
I mean, anyway.
That's awesome,
folks. Thanks for and as I said, happy Memorial Day to everyone out there. We'll leave you with this. Have a great Memorial Day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.